Bass and Bonsai, still in the house. If we had an opportunity, would we go out live scoping if that was all we could do? Nah, I'd probably just stay home. A shot. So, don't knock it until you tried it, right? I just want to get your guys' thoughts and opinions. I'm going to talk about some other stuff, but I'm kind of made up this topic about I didn't make up the fact that there's this thing out there called forward-facing sonar that you can watch fishermen go out there and they're just watching the screen and they're casting a thing out, and it's like cat and mouse. It's like if you're dangling something in front of a cat, eventually one of the cats is going to hit the thing. So is that true fishing? Because you kind of can do the same thing with other stuff, and then we've done it in the past. You guys have probably all remember there's been several guys done it for years with certain jigs. You could argue the same thing that like bed fishing. I really don't like that myself either. You see this huge bass in front, and it's kind of cool to watch the guys. They're kind of, you can tell those fish won't hit, but live scoping is kind of, in my opinion, like the way you watch some of these guys doing, and they said, and they call, oh, we're shaking the minnow and this and that, and like the most popular baits nowadays are those little single tail minnow things. They're just shaking in front of stuff. I just want to get your guys' thoughts and opinions. Like, honestly, me, if I do, and the Eagle i9 has come out, and so an affordable way to get into that, looking out ahead instead of waiting for your boat to go over it, basically is what, like, I've got my eye on the Eagle i9 for. They claim it's really only kind of, the clarity is good for like 60 foot. It's not really much further, the cheap version. Eagle i9, but like I've always liked the idea of the 360 because I would like to know what's up there before I go in and spook it. Right? We've always got it in the back of our head if we can make a longer cast or if we can hit a spot before the fish. We're going to catch that bigger fish that's just there, that it's leery, and if we can get to it before it realizes we're on the water hunting it, right? That we can stand a chance of catching it. The minute it detects our trolling motor or this or that, it's going to know. Well, for those of you that don't know, they claim, now this is all, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher, I've owned one. I have a boat, and it's kind of hit and miss. It's kind of one of those things, unless you just sit and like literally hound the fish that you find, the live scope isn't going to help you make them bite. But if you sit there long enough, and eventually, and I've talked about it every time I talk about it, I'm afraid about what about the guy like that Mike dude or whoever, like what about the no good, dirty, low down people that will be out there just jigging literally for fish, right? With even if they're saying they're using a bait, but you use a bait with huge treble hooks, and you're like sitting there jerking it right beside where you can see him, and oh, I got him, and he's like hooked in the tail. Like, no, that's not really fishing. You need to go spoonbill fishing if you want that kind of fishing. So there's just pros and cons to everything, new technologies as they come out, and I was wanting to get your guys' thoughts, and I'm debating if I should buy one or not, because I honestly look at it, it's kind of like we did when I fished with Matt. Like, we'd stop a few times, and we'd find little mini schools or something, and see if they were, first of all, bass, crappie, or whatever, because he was still getting used to it. He couldn't tell just by looking. Once you get used to any of that sonar type stuff, you can usually tell by the clump of what it is. It's kind of hard to explain, but bass and crappie kind of look different in a school kind of thing once you've got that down. But anyway, we tried to just, like, oh, there's that brush pile, we're coming up on it now. That, we had seen, what is that? Somebody sent me something. But anyway, I don't know. You can get into it for $1,000 now, and you could be kind of working down the bank, and it would let you see stuff, especially new bodies of water, but even places you fish like kind of regularly, but like you guys, wow, I'm sure everybody's had this experience, even not even looking at sonar or something. You're out in a boat, and you're going to the same places, and sometimes the water's either low enough or clear enough you can spot stuff in the water. Then you come back, 6 months, a month later, 6 days later, it's rained or whatever, and it's muddied up, or the water's raised, and you can't tell where that stuff was. And honestly, if you're not paying attention, you're working down the bank, you run across it before you realized it was there, even with a regular sun, anything facing down or even side imaging, unless you got a way to like try to scan sideways, circle around or, that kind of thing. To where I see that definitely the forward facing, so out ahead of you, you can see what's coming is what instantly the very first time, I saw the technology, I'm like, that would be kind of cool. But then what it's turned into now is people literally finding fish out in the middle of nowhere and then kind of just stalking that school or that area. And because a lot of times school, which I've said before, like I feel that there's a schooling fish or just a fish will kind of make a circle. This is just I don't have any proof of this, but even some of your bigger fish, like they will work up and around. And I kind of got this from because I think catfish do this too. I think they've got like a hunting territory basically, and it could be shallow and it could be deep, and you really never know, which ones at what. Typically, catfish they come up at night, and they film around with their whiskers and stuff. But bass, they may just be working that whole area throughout the day. When extreme weather, they may be down deep or whatever, but then they may be shallow. So if you can set, and I think they sort of do the similar thing when they're schooling kind of thing. So if you can set and just follow that school around though, instead of I found it and then you lost it, because it can be hard to track and keep track of schooling fish if you've unless they're busting the surface. If you've just got down facing stuff, whether it's side imaging or whatever, it's a little easier if you do have a little higher end stuff. But the fact that now we're probably not that far away from having a tracking basic thing on your trolling motor, since it's GPS and you can have spot lock, but you could basically, I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure the next thing down the pipeline will be your forward facing can see this group or whatever, and you can basically lock onto that where it'll link that into your trolling motor, and then your trolling motor will follow that exact, and you guys, it may already be there. I don't know, but like, is that really the sport of fishing, or have we gone too far? Is also another, I'm like, did we go a little too far with that? Because here's my thoughts on it. The fact that, well, here in Missouri, and it's different other places. Some places and some other countries actually have seasons where it's just locked out. You can't go fish. In Missouri, we're basically year round. You can't, if you're crazy enough to go out, freezing weather, whatever, you buy and I've said for years, it should be more. I know I'm the cheap dude, right? But it should be more money. They charge us like $12.50 for a Missouri resident. Now, it can't go everywhere. There's other lakes and stuff, like Jacomo County lakes. You got to go pay another thing for that. But I think just in Missouri, for what we charge for anybody wanting to fish, if you live in Missouri, it should be more. And if you are out of state, it should be more. And there should be more put into our fisheries. Because I'll be honest, up on these northern ones, they kind of suck. Now, going south, I don't know what all they got going down there. But I'll be honest, all the lakes I've been to on the Missouri side, not as impressed as I was at going to just a handful in Kansas. And my grandpa used to go to Kansas. Like when he fished, and now he was just a kind of a live bait fisherman, trot line, this and that kind of stuff, old hunter trapper type stuff. But he went to catch meat. But when he was going, he didn't even think about going to any Missouri lakes. When he was going to a lake, he was going to over in Kansas, Perry's, Hillsdale, Palm. I don't know. There's 3 or 4 lakes that, depending on what little fishing report says what was hitting or what was whatever. That's where he tended to go. But I think that the livescope, I don't know. I just see where it could eventually evolve into a bad thing, because when we have seasons in hunting, it's just like hunting. I guess I always kind of, I'm going to make this comparison. I know I may be way off. And also, if any of you guys are, as you're tagging along, comment whether I'm doing a live or drop it in the comments if you're picking this up after I've already finished the live stream. But I kind of look at, going out with $80,000 bass boat, 10 to 15, $20,000 electronics, trolling motors, and all that is like going deer hunting in a helicopter with a AR-15 at night with night vision goggles and like a stealth helicopter, so where the deer don't see it coming, and it's like year-round slaughterfest on the hunting on any other animal. I mean, because fish, technically, the water is what has been the thing separating them, and as we've evolved, you get it more and more. But it's like the school moves away and they run off. But like if you have the word, and then what's next after this? If after the live scope or forward-facing sonar. I mean, when do we get to the point where it's like, okay, if you guys want to use all this expensive technology, here's your, no longer can we fish during spawning season. No longer can we, fish for this, here's this little window, or when you can use all this, technology or whatever, because it's really come to the fact, and honestly, fishing has increased so much and people out fishing that at some point now it may not, they may slow back down to where there's just so much fishing pressure, but then also fish being kept like there's lakes popping up here and there that are excellent, but most of these well, I'm just talking about the waters around me, the fishing is nowhere near as good as I remembered anyway. I know you're like, oh well, it's good harder. Try, you got to do this and you got to change that. It's like, why? Why is it? Why aren't we? If we're spending 80,000, not me, I'm not spending $80,000 for bass boat, but if all this money is being spent for $15 baits, for $80,000 boats, for $10, $15, $20,000 of electronics, and all this and that, why can't we go to places that fish that, like, where's that money going back into the resource itself, the building more lakes, getting more access to more bodies of water? Like, it's like it's being sucked up and out, and we got all this expensive stuff and all these different baits, and it's like, well, that's just how it is. And it's like, why can't all this money that is being generated and spent for that one little bass fish being put back? Like, I would think as much as it's grown now, like there should just be more places popping up, and more, honestly, more places popping up that are a catch and release only, or for the guys that, like, I just want to go and I want to try to catch, like it's going on down in Texas and a lot of places, and I think more states should be picking that up. I don't know, maybe it's just me. After I got into politics a few months ago, just all this stuff, it's like we're kind of doing it wrong. Honestly, we're, in my opinion, is like, it's, and it's not just this person or that person. It's not just the person that came up to LiveScope. It's not just the Japanese. It's not just the Chinese. It's not just the American. It's like, where do we like start trying to build up the resource that we're spending all this money to go to those, and that kind of thing? I guess it may be happening on some this, some that, but like I don't know. I definitely haven't heard anybody talking about it, like any of the big names talk about, oh, well, we're going here to try to do this and that, and they're doing studies on bass, and on every study is like, what can we use to get them to this or that? And there has been the studies doing the Florida and the big fish, and like they do in Texas about the, it's basically a slot limit is how you can generate big bass. But like, what about generating more places to fish for bass, period? It's like, surely they can use a few more dams to generate electricity instead of building these huge windmills kind of thing. I know I went way off of the whole forward-facing sonar, but I know it's been one of those days. I've been out driving in slick, nasty conditions all morning. Took about an hour to get to work. All the highways were shut down. Here in the Midwest, we had that freezing rain stuff, and it really wasn't bad, but the bridges were bad. And people, they get out on them roads, and if that road is not, if their car isn't burner rubber when they leave their driveway, they jump up to the speed limit on the highway, and then they hit a slick spot. And yeah, so anyway, out here in Missouri, the Midwest, Kansas City here, I know you guys don't like the Chiefs. Everybody likes the Eagles now because the Chiefs are a dynasty, and Patrick Mahomes sucks. Patrick Mahomes is that good. Have they had some help from the refs? Yeah, just same way the Patriots did. Same way any big name team that is just once you get that clout going, like it's happened over the years. You could name off the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers, the teams that once they got rolling, you just kind of think like, wow, man, they getting a little. The calls go their way a lot of times, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it really doesn't matter. But enough about that. Forward-facing sonar or bust. This reel, did I guys? I don't even. I know I've already talked about this reel enough. Here's the thing. I could get 2 more of these reels, or I could buy one Eagle Eye 9. Now I know the Eagle Eye 9 would probably help me catch more fish, but man, it's more fun doing it when you have a reel like this. This reel is excellent. I am seriously trying to talk myself out of buying one more. I don't even need. So I'm thinking about selling a couple of these or one of these at least. I got 3 of these. I do not need. I don't even know. Like I think back, like what were you thinking that you bought 3? I don't know because they're expensive too. They're as much as it. They're actually more than this. This is still listed right now through Digitaka. More money than this. And this by far, well, I need to get them out on the water. I need to hurry up and just get out and fish and see what I think. But man, I think this is going to be, I'm going to like it better than these. And I love these reels. Don't get me wrong. You're still looking at the reel that I recommend because this reel or that reel really don't do anything more than average bass fisherman will do, but that one will definitely go lower on ease of casting lightweight baits. You could go BFS fishing with that thing. Like, start around 3 or 4 gram baits and up. That reel will do it. This one, it'll do it, but it's not going to do it as easy. It's going to struggle, and you got to fill the spool halfway, and it's just a heavier reel. But Digitaka 225, Digitaka 440 something. So you could have 2 of these to one of those, or you could have a Eagle Eye 9. And since I already have all these reels, right? It's a no-brainer. Oh, Marcus Kubler, interesting thoughts. In your region, you aren't allowed to use livescope at all? Interesting. I didn't know it was like totally banned anywhere. I know the pros, I watched Wheeler talking about it. I guess they're going to be allowed little certain periods in the major league fishing that they can use it, and then they can't use it anymore and different stuff. But honestly, I think it's because televised bass fishing is starting to get boring. Like it's, it's, I grew up watching bass fishing, Bill Dance, like some, Rick Clunn. Bill Dance already had his own show. He wasn't. I'm not that old. He wasn't on in the actual deal. Or Roland Martin, Jimmy Houston, Hank Parker. But like when I started watching bass fishing, kind of paying attention to it anyway. Kevin Van Dam, Greg Hackney had just started out. They were all youngsters, and like the way they were going out and fishing, and then just like you guys. I can't think of all the names right now, but like Mark Davis, David Fritz, different ways, like deep cranking, throwing the jig here, throwing a square bill. Like there was all these different ones, and which one was going to win, it was always like. And then I remember I can't even think of his name now, but the first time I was watching, may have been Greg Hackney, but I can't. Anyway, the Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver, he was pitching up into the like grassy. I want to say it was like cattails basically, but something like that. And like just where there was a slot cut out, and he had to pitch it in there right, but it was like I think it was just a green pumpkin. I can't remember the color for sure, but man, he like tore him up in that competition with that. And it's just those kind of things. Like now, literally, all you ever see is it's this little minnowy looking thing with just this little thin tail, and it's got a little ball on the end or something. And they're just like you're casting it out, and you just cast. Oh, yeah, it's by him. Oh, whoa! Oh, it's by him. It's like, oh man, these work anywhere, guys. All you do is like, dude, get over it. I just think I don't know. I've watched several of the thing and all the new baits. Like they'll come out with something this or that, but then there's always the little thing. Oh, it's for a chatterbait trailer. Yeah, but you guys are gonna do the little strolling live scoping thing, and all they have to come out the baits that so the profile they can pick up better and that and all that. So not only doing it like the when I was fishing with Matt and we were just playing around with it, like he always kind of kept an eye on it, but we never really just we'd stop and look at structure. Like when we found something, it was real good for that. Like when you did find something, you could kind of circle around instead of just going over it or whatever. You kind of circle around it, get a better idea of exactly what it was. We found some different. I think they were just pallets stacked up out in the middle of that one lake we always went to. Always showed some fish, but we never. I don't. I think we caught one little bass off of it one time. But I mean, you almost have to once you start staring at that and you're jiggling in front of it. It's I don't know. It's just not as fun as working down the bank looking for a hit. I don't know. Yeah, I like honestly one of the best little series that just one of the episodes I watched. I don't even remember how many years ago it was. A couple years ago was I was watching, and he's not my favorite fisherman. It was Wheeler, and he literally I think he won that event, but he was jumping all over the lake trying all kinds of different stuff. He was up in like by cypress trees and he was out here and then he was over there. And that looked like a fun way to be fishing and it was definitely fun to watch. And I I can't remember, but it was definitely a white bait and it wasn't far from something like that. Like I just remember he was fishing with something up in the and then somebody, I think it was Mike Iaconelli, maybe was fishing in the same area. So he was like trying to beat him there and I don't know, all that kind of stuff. And I did definitely liked watching anytime you watch a rivalry between, like if you guys remember back in the day when Aaron Martins and Brian Velvick were sitting there battling that one spot. Now it was a boring way they were fishing. They were just sitting there holding that line. You could see them. They like had cuts on their fingers probably from the line cutting into them. And they were just sitting over those old abandoned, I think they were just like the structures, foundations of the houses that had some fish. And they were just, sitting there and just whatever. They had worms or whatever. I think it was a 10-inch. I don't know. But anyway, and then them arguing back and forth and carrying on. That's what made that kind of fun. But that was kind of a boring sitting there watching them. That's one thing about Aaron Martins. He was a hell of a fisherman. But at times the way he was super finesse. And sometimes the way he fished actually could get boring just watching him fish. And he wasn't a big talker, if you guys know who I'm talking about. For some of you that don't. I'm sure everybody does. But if you're fairly new to fishing, you may not know exactly who Aaron Martins is. But yeah, so I think that they definitely need to rein it in some way or another or whatever. And they definitely need to watch. But see, there's no way to really watch for that. Like how would you get somebody like if they're out hunting out of season and they're poaching or they're doing this and that and they're usually a kid or if they're bringing more than their limit or whatever, but how are you going to stop a guy that goes out fishing and he comes back with his, say it's 5 bass limit and he's got 5 bass that weigh 10 pounds? How did he hook them? Where did he hook them? Like whatever, he doesn't have a shocker. He doesn't have a cast net or whatever, but if he's going around, basically jigging them with like whatever thing, maybe he's got this huge sinking swim bait with like 3 big trebles and it's like, oh no, yeah, I caught him on a swim bait. Like I don't know. It could just be me like getting too paranoid about the whole situation. Well, what else do I want to talk about before I get off here? I'm trying to keep it within a half hour if I can, but you know me, I'll love to get on some tangent talking about something else that this week it should come in. It's been in the United States for a while, but is it going to be the cheapest reel? I think the cheapest reel that isn't from AliExpress will be here, and that is going to be the Tatula, the new SVTW, the one with the boost, and unfortunately the drag clicker is like I think several days behind it, so we'll probably I'll do an unboxing, initial looking at it and whatever. But I was wanting to tear it apart and then put the drag clicker in it. Make sure first of all it's the right one. It may not even be. There's like two different versions for the Tatulas, and then I've also got the little spring and stuff to put a different drag on it because I've got a drag star. I've got that one around here somewhere that I already have. Oh, that's what I should be doing. I got to polish it. I got to re-sand and polish this up. This thing's been thrown around over there forever. It's gotten beaten up. But it actually looks good on. Right here, looking at it, it kind of looks funky, but it looks good, cleaned up, polished up, and on. Like this, it's just this one, but it's silver, not gold. But they're a copy of like the ZPIs or whatever. Is that the ZPI? I don't know. But I plan on putting that on it with probably, I know you guys are like think I'm crazy. Probably something like that. Maybe the stock handle or this handle if I think it's looks better. But I've got one of these handles coming forth. That's the intention. So like I gave I think it was $177 to get it to me. The drag clicker's $12. This already had if I use the stock handle, these knobs were only like $6.50. So 26. Like I'm still going to be in it. Probably as cheap or cheaper than what you could buy it new here for, like $220 or whatever plus tax kind of thing. By going that route, but who knows how it'll end up. That's just my initial thoughts. Get it and put it together, but I may not like it. I may actually put this drag star on it, see what it looks like, because I'm thinking I'm going to get a gold one for that Zillion. I don't know, that Zillion, it's like old news, right? It's like a couple years old pile of junk. Whoever recommended anybody get those Zillions? They're junk. No, these are good reels. I'll have to get out and fish, see if I actually like these handles first of all. But I'm telling you, once you get used to just grabbing hold of it, they look intimidating, and they kind of are cumbersome, or can be, I guess, if you end up with a lot of these on your reels. But where you grab doesn't really change. Like you grab maybe a hair out more, but like it's not really. It's just that you can, I guess, slip off these when you get anxious. You guys know what I'm saying. I'm sure every one of you has like went to set the hook, and you literally with one hand you yank the reel out, the deal out. So like when you're grabbing like this, because I found that when I was out fishing with chatterbaits or whatever, like that's not going to happen when you're holding on to that. Like you kind of just, I don't know, it's just a way more, you're on it, holding it, and it's, I don't know, can't explain it. I know, this is a guy that I've always liked a little bit bigger knobs. I definitely don't like the stock knobs like this. I've never liked these flat. I feel these are one of the worst things for me to hold on to, and they just don't feel good. I don't like them. So anyway.
Are you still recording?
Yes. Middle of a live stream. Okay, so this one, this is going to be the last single lifestyle handle that I ever make until I decide to make another one. But I think I'm over that phase. Don't think I'll probably keep this one just because it was the last one I ever made, and it's the shortest one I ever made, and maybe I'll bury it in a time capsule and somebody can open it up and go, what was that goofball thinking? These are like a love-hate thing. Some of the guys that I've either sent one to, or Charles, I think, still loves the idea of the single lifestyle. That's just the name I got because of the lychee style. So I was like, single handle works excellent if you don't add too much length or too much weight here, because then if you're like this and you go to cast and you cast hard, it can engage the reel with too much, unlike a spinning reel. That's why they work. They're on all the spinning reels, but some spinning reels have doubles now. But bait casters, I'm almost certain that's why almost all of them went with that balance. Now you could also balance the weight out this way, have a little nub with like basically tungsten or something, and still have a single one. Because what this does let you do is once you get used to using it, I always find myself like this, and then I can come up and I can work a drag way just easier than with the dual handle. So like for BFS, it still makes sense for BFS. Like little BFS where you know you want to run a little light drag anyway, and you might want to go, oh, I need to back it off because I did hook a big fish. I want to back it off like just a click or two. Because I always got in the habit once I got to using these I always end up stopping like here. Even when I'm like reeling a bait up to cast again, I would always get it close and stop there, regardless if it's this far away from the tip or however, you know what I mean? And I stop there and then I cast and then I always, like I just got in the habit of this is where I reach for it to re-engage it. And then while I was fighting the fish, I brought it back into my body and then I could reach up and adjust the drag tighter, looser, or whatever. It's just one of those things. Once you get used to that, if that's all you fished with was that, and kind of like I've done now, I got used to it and it works pretty good. But you definitely aren't going to be able to put one of these on a single lifestyle handle and cast, because if that was the only one out there and you went to cast, that would definitely go boink and cause you problems. Now you could, if you bring it back here, so anything down or whatever, and then you were to cast, that weight's not going to transfer. But if it takes one little mistake and you leave it up a little too high kind of thing and you went to cast, I don't know if you guys saw that it just would toink, and when that's trying to take off going 90 mile an hour, this little gear, and that it jumps back into the big gear that is just barely moved to re-engage everything, you're going to mess up your gears. All it really takes is one of those to have it gives it a little bit more of a feel. And while I'm talking about that, a little pointer for any newbie out there. If you're new to bass fishing or new to bait casters, the last thing you want to do is when you cast, and I've seen people, I've actually done it myself. I don't even know if I can count the times back in my early days. No matter what you do, either let the spool come to a stop, but the best thing to do is just stop it. You know, right. A lot of times it's best idea to stop it right as the bait's hitting the water. Try to just get in the habit of doing that, but stop that before you engage this, because, and I'm not going to do it, but if that's moving at all, and when you engage that, that's how you can prematurely wear out gears, and you can really do some damage if like you get antsy and that's moving pretty good with a pretty heavy bait, pretty heavy line, and you engage that. That's an easy way to start tearing up your reel. So it's basically like trying to throw your car in forward or reverse when it's going the other way. Like, you don't want to do that. It's bad juju on your reel, and a lot of people don't even realize they're doing it, because I've seen people do it and they cast, and then you can just hear them. They like engage before it looked like the bait ever even stopped or hit the water. I'm like, I don't know if they're it looks iffy, and I was bad about that early on in my bass fishing. But if you don't realize that is what it's doing, or it could hurt, a lot of people, I guess, especially if you're like switching hands, you cast and you want to get switched out, so you should get in the habit of stopping it, then engaging it, instead of like switching hands and then just engaging that when it hits the water. Because even though the bait hits the water, it still is probably pulling line out. That's just one of those little, to save the wear and tear on your reel. The only other thing that totally debunks even needing these is you should also try to fight the fish with the rod, and then reel in, kind of reel down to the fish with keeping a bend in the rod, but reel it to where the bend starts to go out, and then pull back, and then kind of reel. If you just use it as a winch, as also a way to prematurely wear out the gears in there. If you just rear back and just start cranking, and if it's hard to crank and the fish is pulling, and most of these reels nowadays, and especially the hyperdrive, it'll do it, but it's really kind of the difference of driving your car easy all the time you drive it, or every time you get in and you throw in gear and you're holding it to the floor while you're riding a brake and you're trying to burn rubber, and then you're going, and you can also prematurely wear out a reel. So for maximum efficiency and making a reel last as long as possible, that extra crank, especially if you got a small reel like this Zillion. It's probably not far off from the HD or whatever, but if I'm putting this 100 millimeter handle and I'm trying to crank on these swim baits or swim bait fish or whatever, it's going to prematurely wear it. That's why if you're like the deep deep, I confused it with driving, deep diving swim baits, you're probably better off with a real more or less slower gear ratio or setup for that thing. You can do it with almost any reel, but that will also prematurely can wear out. So especially, it's not as bad once you get to these high ends. They can take a pretty good beating, but if you get into cheaper reels and start really winching on, you don't want to do it with any carbon framed ones, but you start doing some extracurricular cranking and popping the things and all that, you can really destroy a cheap one real quick. Of course, it may not matter if they're only $50 or less, $100 or less. It's like, who cares? I'm just gonna abuse it. So anyway, I guess I'm gonna get out of here. I don't know. I guess somebody was probably wondering what we're doing for dinner. I don't know what we're doing for dinner. We ate Chipotle last night. I'm happy for the week. Right? What do you guys think? Should I buy the Eagle Eye 9 or just eat Chipotle every day for here on out? Well, I can't do that. I'll put on too much weight. I get a burrito bowl and it's loaded. Anyway, I got to get out of here. Comment below. I want to know what your guys' thoughts on the forward-facing sonar and Eagle Eye 9 and all that. All the other stuff I talked about, well, you guys can talk about the handle, single lifestyle. How many of you will be happy to see me never fish with one of these single handles again? The one downside is like I would put, upside and a downside. Upside, downside. Upside, you don't need near as many of these. You could buy aftermarket ones and then you need one for each reel, so you could save money there. Downside is you buy a real cool handle that you like anyway, or knob, that is, not the handle itself. But you buy a real cool knob, and then while you're out there in a fishing video or whatever, no one has any idea what kind of knobs you got on your reel because you're holding it, the one that you do have. And just some people think it, they're not used to seeing that and they think it looks weird when you're looks like it's broken or something. It's just spinning reels traditionally have the one, and then when they have two, it's like, oh, that's cool, they got two. But then casting, bait casters have always traditionally had the double. You get to the big ocean ones with the big power thing, those are different because they usually don't really cast those. They're not in the same way, or they got like a lever that you flip, that you cast and you flip the lever back, so it's not that same kind of deal. But like with these, it just looks awkward to most people when they got the single. So anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the Tatula. I'm still up in the air about rods. Okay, I just thought of something else. Then I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to keep this to around 40 minutes. You guys let me know. Here's the thing, and Eddie and a few other guys have always talked about so I got a battle between the two Fs, except one of them isn't an F. The Falcon rods and Phoenix rods. Okay, I know Phoenix, it starts with a P, but it's not spelled Phoenix the way you would spell Phoenix rising from the ashes. It's spelled a different way, but with a P. So Phoenix Feather versus Falcon Lowrider. Battle it out. Let me know what you guys think. The Phoenix Feather, for those of you that don't know, I think Mark Davis just got picked. They picked him up. He picked them up, however you want to look at it. And he was talking about rods. And I talked about that briefly last night, but a lot of you guys, everybody's coming about how light these Phoenix Feathers are. The problem is they've only got like one rod that is under 7 foot, but they do have, you can get 4 rods that are 7'1" that basically cover everything. You can get the 6'9" medium heavy, or you could just get 7'1" medium heavy, the 7'1" heavy, they make a medium and a medium light. So you could cover a lot with just those 4. But then you also have over here the Falcon Lowrider series, which is a little cheaper maybe. I think they're roughly about the same price. But in the Falcon Lowriders, you can stay under 7 foot. They're like 6'10", and I want to say there's either 4 or 5 that are 6'10", 6'8", and 6'7", I think, medium heavy. But anyway, So like if you had to get a whole, like you're going to run, you want to buy all, because they kind of should have close to the similar sensitivity and feel, right? So the handles, so if a lot of you guys maybe don't like jumping from different ones to ones, because I know that I like the Poison Adrena and the X Pride, but when you jump back and forth from the destroyers to them, it can take a little bit of thing. But then if you definitely jump off of like back when I had the 6'9" medium heavy carbon light, you go from the carbon light and then try to grab my like super destroyer, whole different like sensitivity, power flex stuff, like way different. So it almost takes you a while to get used to what's going on with each one. So that it does kind of make sense to go to one. And I talked about it with the Daiwa Kage rods. Like I try to talk myself into buying like the 5 or whatever, but they only have like 3 that are 7 foot, and a 6'8" and a 6'10", which are both basically more or less geared for jerkbait. You could use them for other stuff, of course, but they're kind of like a different things of jerkbait. And then so they really don't actually have anything other than rods for jerkbaits under 7 foot. So far, other than the true Megabass destroyers, which they do have enough rods in that 6'11" down to even 6'5", 6 foot basically, to where you could cover everything. They've got enough rods from 6'7" to 6'11" that could cover everything from bait finesse to heavy jigs and all that, other than like bigger swim bait kind of stuff. But you're talking $350 when you can find them cheap to $500 a piece, or you could go with like the Falcon. You could buy all 5 for like $650, and you have 5 rods and be out fishing. Well, I could with all the reels I already have anyway, and just something like that. So I've been debating about spending that much money, just to get a whole set to like use, kind of like when I'm going where I don't want to like tear up my good stuff. So like if I'm going with me and my boat, or with Charles, I'll probably use my high-end stuff. But if I'm going, maybe, I don't know, just something I thought about doing. That way I can just have them, and I don't know, just a thought. Or I could just get one of each for now and actually get out fishing, because I've never seen a phoenix feather in person. I know, right? I have handled several. I've never actually fished, though, with the lowrider. I remember when the lowriders first come out, I'm like, I'm going to get some of these. These are awesome looking, right? They were one of the first ones that kind of came with the... If you guys remember, right, our old guys on the rods, they were like honkers. They were like big and huge, and the lowriders, like, they dropped them down, because there was a time when everybody's like, get them further away from the blank and it's better for casting and this and that. I was like, yeah, but they weigh like a ton. And then that's kind of before they went to micros, like the Falcon lowriders were just, they made them basically, they still had pretty decent holes in the center. They just made them kind of small and got them down lower on and I think they put more of them on it, and it just had a neater, cleaner look. And there's a lot of rides that are sort of like that now, but that lowrider was kind of one of the first ones. Anyway, but that was years ago, and they've revamped it since then. And they do look and feel pretty good. They're fairly lightweight they're only like 130 to 150 or something like that. They're not that expensive for actually as good rods as they are. But so are the Phoenix feathers. And then with any of those, you could always just add another rod from a different, because Phoenix, they've got a few different lines up that I've, and then so do the Falcon, of course, has got the Cara, the this, the that. So anyway, you guys let me know what you think. Let's do that battle. What do you think about the forward-facing sonar? Pros, negatives, pros and cons, positive, negative, if you're for it, against it. And also, if you had to pick, like you had to go with the 7'1", because that's, I guess technically you could get a 7'3" if you're already going 7'1". But like they've got 4 different rods, Phoenix feather versus the Falcon lowriders. Let me know what you think. I'll talk to you guys later.